Michigan, Studies in God's Wonderland by Dennis M. Morrison. Oftentimes, Michigan has been referred to as the Winter Wonderland. And if you live in Michigan or just like to vacation here, I think you'll agree that God made Michigan indeed a wonderland. All 4 seasons, 365 days a year. In fact, you do not have to travel to some far-off exotic locale to look at some of God's more interesting creations. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the amazing Sundew Plant, in particular my encounter with one. Now, it was a hot summer morning, now about 15 years ago. I was walking at Tuttle Marsh, taking nature photographs. Now, Tuttle Marsh is a wildlife refuge nestled between Oscoda and Tawas. This day I was fortunate enough to stumble across what I believe is one of the oddities of God's creation, a plant that eats meat, insects to be more exact, and that is the Sundew Plant. Probably everyone has heard of the Venus flytrap, but that does not grow wild in Michigan. But it does have a cousin, though, the sundew, and that is what I found growing beside one of the many quiet little ponds at Tuttle Marsh. Now, quiet is not exactly the right word. Serene is more to the point. It has God's serenity. There are always birds singing, frogs croaking, and crickets chirping, and it leaves you with a calm feeling inside. I stopped to admire all of this, and I looked down where I was surprised to see right at my feet a small little sundew plant. Now, this extraordinary little plant had a somewhat flat rosette of leaves, and it was about as big around as a 50-cent piece. Coming up out of the center was a thin stalk or stem which terminated in an almost teardrop-shaped appendage. And this teardrop was covered with fine reddish hair, and each had a glistening drop of what looked like water on the end. Touching the clear substance proved that it was very sticky, and this serves the plant quite well. You see, insects are attracted to the substance, and when they land on it, they become quite mired in it. The hairs then fold over on the insect, and digestive fluids are secreted so that the plant can eat, so to speak. The sundew is probably not all that rare. It is just that you would hardly notice it if you were not looking for it, or fortunate enough to stumble across it as I did. If you do get to observe it, however, I'm sure you too will agree it is one of God's very unique creations here in Michigan, and there's a lesson in looking at this wonderful little plant. And that lesson is that God has taught us in His Word to be ever watchful so that we do not become trapped in the world or what it has to offer, which basically is nothing but destruction. Some things might look good, just like that sweet sticky fluid that the insect is drawn to on the sundew, but it is really full of danger. We can be consumed by the world just as the insect is consumed by the sundew. Be ever watchful and on guard. 1 John 2:15 through 17 gives the following advice. Love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, is not of the Father, but is of the world. And the world passeth away, and the lust thereof. But he that doeth the will of God abideth forever. It's most interesting and fascinating that no matter where you look in nature, in God's creation, there's always a lesson that can be related back to His blessed and holy, true and unchanging Word.